The greatness of heaven and earth trembled as the eyes of the ancient prophet Ezekiel beheld a vision that was not fated for an ordinary man to comprehend. He stood atop a rocky height, looking down into a valley where dead bones covered the ground. A strange mixture of fear and awe burned in his heart. On the horizon, through a veil of sand and mist, figures began to take shape that resembled humans, yet were too large and terrifying to be mere mortals. They were the Anunnaki, divine beings said to have descended from the ancient traditions of the Sumerians. It was believed that the Anunnaki came down from the heavens to become lords over the world of men, possessing knowledge hidden from ordinary mortals. That day, Ezekiel heard a voice calling him by name. The voice was deep, like the roar of many waters, emanating from a dark cloud that had gathered above the valley. The voice said, "Prophet, have you come to see what is concealed? Are you ready to learn the secrets of the ancient covenant?" The Anunnaki who stood before him were not merely great giants. Their eyes glowed with a fire that seemed to burn through space, and their skin was the color of the darkness of the cosmos. Ezekiel understood that they were not simply fallen angels, as he had read in the Holy Scriptures. They were ancient gods, buried in the sands of time and hidden from mortal eyes. The Anunnaki spoke. "We are those who created you," said one of them, his voice echoing through the valley. "We were here long before your forefathers tended their flocks. We watched the world as you grew and evolved. You say that you created man." Ezekiel asked, his voice trembling, but he did not retreat. "We are those who descended from the heavens and bestowed knowledge upon you," continued the Anunnaki. "We taught you crafts, writing, and laws. We gave you what your gods could not give, you the power to control matter and time itself." The prophet began to recall ancient stories from the scriptures, tales of the Nephilim, giants born from the union of the sons of God and the daughters of men. Suddenly, he realized that the very beings who stood before him were those who had once been cast out by God for their arrogance and abuse of power. "But you were cast down," said Ezekiel, a mixture of disbelief and realization shining in his eyes. "You were punished for your pride and desire to become equal to the Most High." The Anunnaki laughed, but it was not laughter of joy, it was a bitter, heavy laugh of eternal disappointment. "We were not punished," said another Anunnaki. "We were forsaken. We are not fallen, we are forgotten. Man has forgotten us, replacing us with false gods that offer only illusions and hopes." The prophet tried to resist this revelation. "You are demons, you are those who sow evil in the souls of mankind. Your place is in the depths of the underworld, not on this earth. We are not demons. We are the beginning and the end," replied the Anunnaki, stepping closer so that his shadow enveloped Ezekiel. "And now we have returned to complete our work. The time has come, prophet, and you will be our messenger. Tell the people that the true creators have returned and that they will demand retribution for centuries of forgetfulness." Ezekiel felt a cold horror seep into his soul. But in that moment, he remembered the words of the Lord that had once been spoken to him in a dream, "Fear them not, for I am with you." Deep within his heart, he found the strength to stand against the darkness. "I will not be the messenger of your false prophecies," he shouted resolutely. "The truth lies elsewhere. And my God is strong enough to protect his people from you." The Anunnaki retreated, but their eyes did not leave the prophet for even a moment. "You are mistaken, prophet," they said, "but it does not matter. Time will reveal who speaks the truth. The truth does not unveil itself immediately, and even you cannot escape it." At that moment, the heavens split open, and a light of indescribable power illuminated the valley, causing the bones to collapse once more to the ground. The Anunnaki vanished, but their ominous words echoed in Ezekiel's ears. The prophet fell to his knees, exhausted but not defeated. He knew that his struggle against the ancient forces had only just begun. And many visions and trials awaited him ahead. But in his heart burned the light of faith, and he knew that God was with him, guiding him along this difficult path. "Justice will prevail," he whispered. "And even the most ancient secrets will be revealed before the light of truth." when Ezekiel returned to his tent, the night sky had already enveloped the earth in its dark shroud. But his thoughts were far from earthly concerns, as the voices from the vision he had just experienced resonated in his mind. The Anunnaki had left a mark on his soul, and he understood that they were not merely ancient beings but forces that could overturn the world. Ezekiel heard the voice of the Lord in his heart again, "Fear not, for I am with you. They may seem great and powerful, but their power is not eternal. My will always be stronger than their designs." The prophet felt that even in the face of great danger, his faith remained his true shield, but the nights following his encounter with the Anunnaki were filled with nightmares. He dreamed strange images, giant figures with eyes like stars penetrating his consciousness, voices whispering words of ancient secrets. He saw the Anunnaki constructing great structures, pyramids and ziggurats, from which they surveyed the movements of the stars, reading the future in the constellations. One night, in his visions, Ezekiel found himself in the desert before a grand pyramid, its peak disappearing into the heavens. The walls were carved with symbols and inscriptions, ancient words that seemed familiar yet incomprehensible. Suddenly, the Anunnaki appeared before him, the very one who had spoken with him in the valley. "Prophet," he spoke, his voice now softer yet still full of power. "You think you know the truth, but do you know who we are? You see us as fallen, but we are not evil. We are those destined to be the keepers of knowledge, and we long to awaken humanity from its slumber." Ezekiel, unsure of how to respond, fell silent, trying to comprehend the meaning of what was said. He realized that this struggle was not only for physical survival but also for the spirit of man, for its desire to understand its origin and purpose. He saw before him not only enemies but ancient beings standing at the boundary of good and evil, light and darkness. "Why have you come to me?" Ezekiel asked. "Why do you speak to me if you know that I will not accept your offer?" The Anunnaki sighed, as if weary from long waiting. "You are chosen among mortals. You can become a messenger not only of God's will but of understanding. We seek not destruction, we strive for unity, for the world to know the truth of its origins and its place among the stars. I am a servant of the Most High," Ezekiel answered firmly. "And no knowledge that contradicts his will be accepted by me." The Anunnaki gazed silently at Ezekiel, their eyes ablaze with millennia of knowledge. "Then know this, prophet," he said, "that darkness is not always evil, and light is not always good. The truth is not only what is seen but also what is hidden from the eyes. Time will show who was right." Suddenly, the vision vanished, and Ezekiel found himself once again in his hut, surrounded by the silence of the night. He knew that his mission was not yet complete. New battles and revelations awaited him, and the Anunnaki would not leave him in peace until he uncovered the whole truth. With the dawn of the next day, Ezekiel set out on his journey, guided by the voice of God. He knew that his fate was intricately tied to these ancient beings and that his mission was not only to prophesy to the people but also to reveal to them the truth hidden in the depths of the ages. The prophet understood that the struggle for the souls of humanity was not over, and now a new chapter lay before him, filled with mysteries and divine revelations. Thus began Ezekiel's journey as the last warrior of light, ready to confront the very darkness that had ever threatened humanity. Days and nights passed, but Ezekiel found no peace. His mind was tormented by questions for which he could find no answers. The visions grew increasingly intense, and the prophet felt as if the very air around him was filled with the whispers of ancient beings. He knew he had to find a way to stop the Anunnaki, yet he also understood that his knowledge and strength were insufficient for this task. One night, while Ezekiel prayed in the desert, the sky opened again, and a blinding light illuminated his face. But this time, the voice was not the voice of the Lord. It was the voice of another being, ancient and powerful, far more sinister than the Anunnaki. This was a voice that was neither good nor evil but represented pure power of knowledge. "Ezekiel," said the voice, "you stand on the brink of great revelation. You know too little about the forces at play in this world. It is time for you to learn the truth about creation and those who govern the fates of humanity. The prophet lifted his eyes to the heavens and saw the stars beginning to move, forming strange and frightening patterns reminiscent of ancient symbols. These symbols were familiar to him. He had seen them on the walls of Sumerian temples and in visions that came to him at night. Do you want to know the truth? Continued the voice. Know that the Anunnaki are not merely fallen beings or demons, as you thought. They are guardians of knowledge entrusted to them by the universe itself. But their desire to rule over human souls has overshadowed their original purpose. Ezekiel felt the light envelop him, filling his mind with new understandings. He saw visions of ancient worlds where the Anunnaki created civilizations, gifted people with technology, and taught them to follow the laws of the cosmos. But he also saw how the lust for power and the passion for domination led the Anunnaki to their downfall, to fighting among themselves, and to a schism. At that moment, one of the Anunnaki appeared before him again, but now his appearance was far more majestic and mysterious. Do you understand, prophet? He asked. We were the ones who brought light of knowledge to your world, but people turned away from us, choosing the path of ignorance. We were cast out but not forgotten. But why do you desire power over people? Ezekiel asked, feeling a struggle between faith and doubt in his heart. Can't you use your knowledge for good? We tried, replied the Anunnaki with sadness in his eyes. But people are slaves to their passions and fears. They use knowledge only for destruction, not for creation. We want to awaken them from this slumber so that they remember who they truly are. Ezekiel realized that this struggle was not only a fight for power but for the fate of all humanity. He stood at the crossroads of light and darkness, between knowledge and ignorance, and only his faith could lead him to the truth. He understood that his role as a prophet was not merely to prophesy about future calamities but also to be a conduit of the knowledge and power that could change the world. My faith is my strength, Ezekiel stated firmly. And I will not allow you to manipulate the souls of people for your own purposes. The truth belongs to all, and no knowledge should be hidden. The Anunnaki stood still for a moment, as if weighing the prophet's words. Then, with a quiet sigh, the elder among them spoke. You have understood much, prophet, and in this lies your strength. We cannot force you to serve us, but know that the world has already changed. The time of our return has come, and humanity will never be the same again. And at that moment, as the words of the Anunnaki faded, Ezekiel saw new stars rising from the darkness, illuminating his path. He understood that the struggle against ancient forces was far from over. But he also knew that now his mission was not only to protect people from these forces but also to teach them to use the knowledge that had been hidden from them for centuries. Thus ended the first chapter of the great confrontation between the prophet and the ancient gods. But something greater awaited him ahead, a journey to the very source of knowledge and wisdom that could change the fate of all humanity. Ezekiel was ready to accept this challenge, knowing that his faith and spirit would guide him forward to the light of truth. Ezekiel stood at the boundary between two worlds, the world of humans and the world of ancient forces hidden from mortal eyes. After his encounter with the Anunnaki, he felt that his understanding of the universe had been irrevocably changed. He could not simply return to his ordinary life as a prophet, too much was at stake. The truth he had learned was too great to remain forgotten. In his heart, the conviction grew that the fate of humanity depended not only on faith but also on knowledge passed down from the depths of time. But how could this knowledge be used for good if it had once led to destruction? Ezekiel felt that the answer lay somewhere beyond his understanding, and he needed to embark on a quest for these answers. One night, as Ezekiel knelt in prayer, a vision came before him once again. He saw a city, ancient and majestic, hidden among the mountains, built of gold and white stone. This was a city he had never seen in his life, yet images of ancient Sumerian cities, Uruk, Eridu, Nippur, rose in his heart. However, this city was not merely a city of people. It was created by the Anunnaki for their own purposes. Ezekiel realized he had to find this city, a repository of ancient knowledge that had once been bestowed upon humanity. He knew that there, within the depths of its ruins, lay a secret that could become the key to humanity's salvation. But he also understood that he would not be alone on this journey. The Anunnaki would not allow him to simply take what they had long guarded. The next day, Ezekiel left his dwelling and set out on his journey. The desert sands were endless, but a faith burned in his heart that guided his steps. He crossed rivers and mountains, bypassed cities and villages, encountering no people who could understand his mission. Each evening he prayed for protection and strength, knowing he was pursued by unseen forces. Along the way, strange signs appeared to him. Once, while passing through the desert, he saw a flock of birds flying in the sky, which suddenly vanished into thin air as if they had never existed. Another time, the stones scattered along his path began to glow with a blue light, as if emitting energy that was unfamiliar to him. All these signs were omens of an encounter with the Anunnaki. They were watching him. Testing his resolve, after many days of wandering, the prophet finally saw before him the ancient city from his visions. It was hidden in the shadow of towering mountains, as if time had passed it by. Tall columns and towers rose above the ground, although their walls were overgrown with vines and partially destroyed. The air was filled with silence, broken only by the wind blowing through the ancient arches. Ezekiel approached and felt a strange power emanating from the city itself. It was a mixture of fear and majesty, as if the city had not been abandoned but simply slept, waiting for its hour. As the prophet stepped through the gates, the silence suddenly became oppressive, as if the very air resisted his presence. Walking through the streets of the city, he saw frescoes and reliefs depicting majestic figures of the Anunnaki bestowing fire and water, crafts and knowledge upon humanity. But over time, the scenes became darker, people in bondage, cities destroyed by fire, and the Anunnaki standing over throngs of people with faces full of cold majesty. Ezekiel knew that somewhere in the heart of this city lay the key to the mystery. He passed by a temple, at the top of which stood a golden statue of a god holding a scroll. But the prophet felt that his path led deeper, into the catacombs beneath the temple, into the very bowels of this ancient world. Descending into the underground, he saw that the walls of the tunnels were covered with ancient symbols, reminding him of the writings he had seen in his visions. The light of the torch barely penetrated the darkness, and the deeper he went, the stronger he felt the presence of something, or someone. And then, at the end of the tunnel, a vast hall opened before him, and in the center of this hall, on a pedestal, stood a mysterious artifact, a scroll surrounded by a blue glow. Ezekiel stepped closer, and suddenly felt a heavy pressure on his shoulders, as if the very air around him had thickened. Before him appeared a figure, a majestic Anunnaki in golden armor. His face was devoid of emotion, and his eyes glowed with a cold light. "Prophet," he said, "you have come a long way to reach this truth. But are you ready for it? The truth you seek will change everything. It will shatter what your ancestors believed and open the door to a new world." Ezekiel raised his gaze, ready to accept any answer. "I am here to learn what is hidden. My faith is stronger than fear. I am ready." The Anunnaki nodded and raised his hand, and the scroll suddenly unrolled. A blue light burst forth from it, enveloping the prophet, and at that moment, Ezekiel saw before him endless stars, planets, and universes. He saw how the Anunnaki created and destroyed worlds, how they came to Earth to bestow knowledge upon humanity, and how they were rejected. He saw that humanity was created not only from the dust of the earth but also from stardust, and that the Anunnaki were merely part of a greater plan that was beyond themselves. "The truth is that every choice made by humanity affects its future," said the Anunnaki. "You can either return this knowledge to the people or allow them to remain in ignorance. But know that with great knowledge comes great responsibility." The prophet realized that the truth he had sought for so long was not simply in the scroll or in the words of the Anunnaki. It was in the choices made, the decision of what needed to be done for the benefit of humanity. Ezekiel stood in the underground hall, filled with mysterious blue light. His mind swirled with the new knowledge and revelations that had opened up to him in the scroll. He understood that his mission was not only to protect people from ancient forces but also to prepare humanity for the great test that lay ahead. The Anunnaki standing before him spoke again. "You have seen the truth, prophet, but it is only a part of a bigger plan. Now you understand that our role is not merely to rule or control humanity but to guide them towards true awakening. But this awakening cannot be forced. Humanity must make its own choice, and that choice will determine its fate." Ezekiel felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. He understood that what he had learned could change the fate of millions, but he also knew that not everyone would be ready to accept this truth. Many might reject him, unwilling to let go of their habitual beliefs and stereotypes. As he returned from the ancient city, Ezekiel began to contemplate how to convey the knowledge he had gained to the people. He understood that the truth he had learned would not be immediately accepted by humanity. It was too profound, too radical, to simply state it outright. People needed to be prepared, to understand that they were on the brink of a new era, an era where knowledge would be the foundation of their strength. Ezekiel decided to start with those who were closest to him, his disciples and followers who believed in his prophecies. He began to tell them about the visions he had seen, about the ancient forces and secret knowledge passed down to him by the Anunnaki. At first, his words evoked fear and confusion among the people. Some even thought the prophet had gone mad, but Ezekiel did not waver. He continued to speak of the new era, of the great trial that was coming, and of how only knowledge could help humanity survive. Gradually, as his followers started to grasp the depth of his words, their fears turned into determination. They felt they were on the precipice of something great, something larger than mere faith. Soon, the rumors of Ezekiel's prophecies spread throughout the region. People flocked to him from all corners, including not only believers but also sages, philosophers, and rulers searching for answers to their questions. They wanted to know what was coming and how they could prepare for this new era. However, not everyone embraced the prophet's words with open hearts. There were those who saw in his words a threat to their position and power. Many priests and leaders opposed Ezekiel, viewing him as a dangerous heretic attempting to dismantle the foundations of their faith and authority. They began to concoct intrigues, trying to discredit the prophet and his followers, to intimidate them and silence them. In response, Ezekiel gathered his most loyal disciples and addressed them with a speech. "The time of great change is upon us, and we must be ready to meet it. The knowledge I have received is a gift, but also a trial. We must remain steadfast and unshakable, for our path is one of truth and light." He knew that ahead of them lay difficult challenges, but he also felt that his faith and the faith of his followers were stronger than fear. The truth he carried to the people became a new light that illuminated his way in the darkness. Ezekiel understood that his role as a prophet had transformed into something greater. He became a symbol of resistance against darkness and ignorance. A guiding star for those seeking the truth. Suddenly, in the night, as they stood by the fire, the sky darkened, and a powerful roar rolled across the heavens, as if the universe itself was responding to their prayers. Lightning began to pierce the sky, illuminating the faces of the Anunnaki who emerged from the darkness like shadows, surrounding Ezekiel and his followers. "Humanity stands on the brink of its destiny," thundered the voice of the eldest Anunnaki. "Your words, prophet, have resonated in the hearts of many, but do you know what comes next? The trial begins. Are you ready to accept your destiny and learn the price of the knowledge you seek?" Ezekiel recoiled from the tension, but his gaze was filled with resolve. "We are ready," he said firmly. "We are not afraid of the truth. We will accept the trial to become worthy guardians of knowledge." The Anunnaki paused for a moment, then, with a quiet sigh, the eldest among them raised his hand, and light burst forth around them once again. The stars in the sky began to move, forming intricate patterns, heralding the beginning of a great battle between darkness and light. Ezekiel understood that this was a sign that the struggle for the future of humanity was beginning, and he, along with his followers, was ready to face it. Thus began a new phase in the great battle for humanity's fate. Ezekiel became not just a prophet but a leader in this grand confrontation, willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of truth and light. His mission was just beginning, and he knew that greater trials and revelations awaited him, ones that would forever change the course of history. Ezekiel and his followers stood at the threshold of a fateful battle. The sky was shrouded in dark clouds, and the stars formed patterns resembling ancient symbols only understood by those capable of comprehending their meaning. The Anunnaki awaited, not merely as observers but as judges, deciding whether humanity was worthy of the knowledge they could give. There was an air of anxiety among his followers, but Ezekiel would not allow doubt to take hold of their hearts. He turned to them, raising his hand as if to shield them from an unseen force. "Do not be afraid," he said firmly. "We are not alone in this struggle. The light within us is strong, and we must hold on to it. The power of the Anunnaki is great, but faith and truth are even mightier. We fight not for ourselves, but for all humanity, for its right to know the truth and embrace its destiny." His words filled the people with courage. They felt their hearts swell with determination as fear receded before the might of faith. At that moment, the Anunnaki began to mobilize. Their figures seemed woven from light and darkness simultaneously, and their eyes burned with cold fire. They moved slowly, but each step felt like an earthquake, as if the very earth trembled beneath their presence. Ezekiel felt something new igniting within him, something he had never experienced before. He closed his eyes and saw a vision, a vast sphere of light hovering before him. This light seemed to embody the wisdom and power he had sought all his life. The prophet reached out to the light, and suddenly a surge of energy poured into his body, as if he had become a vessel for this ancient force. When he opened his eyes, a radiant light was raging around him, and his followers felt this light passing through them like a wave. They understood that the prophet's power was being transmitted to them, not as a weapon or strength, but as knowledge that led them to enlightenment. "The light of truth is within us," Ezekiel exclaimed. "This power is not for destruction but for creation. We will not use it for war, we will use it for transformation, to open humanity's eyes." The Anunnaki, observing this, halted. Their faces remained impassive, but something new appeared in their eyes: recognition. They understood that Ezekiel and his people had risen to a new level of awareness and that the truth they possessed had already changed them. "Prophet," spoke the elder Anunnaki, his voice now gentler and more reflective, "you have passed the test and proven that humanity is capable of awakening. But knowledge is not merely a gift. It is also a great responsibility. It is for you to decide what you will do with this knowledge." Ezekiel realized that he faced a choice that would determine not only his fate but that of all humanity. He could use this knowledge to guide humanity toward a new era of enlightenment or hide it, fearing it could be used for evil. He looked at his followers, those who believed in him, and saw in their eyes the reflection of the light they had received. In that moment, he understood that the truth must be passed on so that each person could become a bearer of that light. "I choose light and truth," he replied, looking directly into the eyes of the Anunnaki. "I will reveal to people the knowledge that will change their lives. Let each one decide how to use this knowledge, but I believe humanity is capable of finding the path to light." The Anunnaki nodded in agreement. "Your choice is worthy of respect, Prophet. We will give you time to bring this knowledge to life. The future of humanity is now in your hands. We will observe but will intervene no longer. From this moment, your path is your own." When Ezekiel and his followers returned to their lands, they brought with them not just knowledge but a new light of hope. The prophet began teaching the people what he had learned. He spoke of unity with the universe, that humanity was not merely mortal beings but particles of a great cosmic consciousness. Over time, his teaching spread throughout the region, becoming the foundation for a new era. People began to see themselves not as separate entities but as part of a greater whole. connected to ancient knowledge and cosmic wisdom. They began to strive for knowledge and wisdom, rather than for power and destruction, but Ezekiel knew that his mission was not yet complete. New challenges and trials awaited him, for darkness never fully leaves the world. There would always be those who sought to use knowledge for evil. However, he now had the assurance that the light they had kindled would not fade as long as there were those willing to walk the path of truth. The prophet gazed into the distance, toward the horizon where a new sun was rising. He knew that many hardships lay ahead, but he was ready to meet them with faith and determination. He understood that his journey was not the end but merely the beginning of humanity's great journey toward light and enlightenment. Years passed, and Ezekiel's teachings began to shape a new culture among the people. His ideas about awakening, about connecting with the cosmos, and understanding higher knowledge became cornerstones of a new era. People aspired to live in harmony with these principles rather than in fear of the unknown. The boundaries between the material and spiritual worlds began to blur, and humanity stepped onto the threshold of a new era of enlightenment. However, alongside the growth of knowledge and wisdom, another force began to awaken: resistance from those who feared change. Those who did not wish to lose the power they held in their hands saw the new teachings as a threat. These rulers and clergy began to unite against Ezekiel, fearing that his ideas could destroy their control over society. One day, a man dressed in black approached Ezekiel, his face shrouded in shadow. He introduced himself as a messenger of the Dark Society, a group that acted against the new order established by the prophet. This man offered Ezekiel a deal, tempting him with words: "You have achieved much, prophet, and even the Anunnaki have acknowledged your wisdom. But consider how great your power could be if you accept our terms. We can give you access to forces that even the Anunnaki have hidden from humanity. You would become not just a prophet but the lord of this world, the ruler of its fate." Ezekiel listened to him in silence, then slowly shook his head. "Power in itself is an illusion," he said calmly. "True strength lies in the ability to understand and transform. You wish to use knowledge for control and fear, but I believe it was given to us for enlightenment and freedom. I will not allow darkness to use light as a tool for destruction." The messenger of the Dark Society laughed, his laughter echoing in the void. "You are mistaken, prophet. People will not change. They crave power, not truth. You will fight alone, and your faith will become your curse." With these words, he vanished, leaving Ezekiel alone. But the prophet felt neither fear nor doubt. He knew that the trials were just beginning and that the struggle against darkness was not a single battle but an unending war that would be fought in the hearts of every person. Ezekiel decided that he needed to create a new symbol that would serve as a beacon for all who sought the truth. He journeyed to the sacred mountain where, according to legend, the ancient gods left their traces. There, under a clear starry sky, he began to raise a monolith, the guiding star, a symbol of the bright path for humanity. The monolith was adorned with ancient signs and symbols he had seen during his visions and encounters with the Anunnaki. These signs were like keys that opened access to the secret knowledge meant to guide humanity on the path of awakening. Ezekiel poured into this monolith all his knowledge and faith, making it a repository for the light that would illuminate the darkness in the world. The guiding star became a new symbol of faith for his followers. It radiated light visible even in the darkest night, showing the way to those seeking the truth. People came to the monolith to pray, meditate, and seek answers to their questions. The light of this star became not only a symbol of hope but also a challenge to those opposing the new knowledge. But soon what Ezekiel feared began to unfold. The Dark Society launched its attacks. They spread rumors that Ezekiel was a false prophet, that his teachings were heresy, and that the guiding star was a devilish invention that needed to be destroyed. They sought to instill fear and hatred in the people, using every means possible to lead them astray. On the day the Dark Society decided to attack the monolith, Ezekiel and his followers gathered around it. They stood holding hands, creating a circle of light that surrounded the guiding star. The attackers appeared like black shadows advancing from all corners, trying to destroy this fortress of light. At that moment, Ezekiel raised his hands to the sky and began to pray. His words were filled with faith and determination. "Oh, power of light and truth! May your fire illuminate the darkness and destroy all evil that seeks to envelop this world. Let knowledge be our shield and love be our sword." The prophet's words seemed to summon a response from the heavens. From the monolith of the guiding star, a powerful light erupted, blinding the darkness and causing it to dissipate. The dark society, like shadows, was repelled by this wave of light. Their darkness could not withstand the might of truth and light. When the dust settled and the light of the guiding star once again shone on the horizon, Ezekiel understood that this was not merely a victory over darkness but a new milestone in the history of humanity. His followers rejoiced, realizing that light and knowledge had triumphed over fear and ignorance. The prophet turned to his pupils, exhausted but inspired by this victory. "We have taken the first step toward true awakening, but the journey is not over. Our mission is to carry this light further, to share knowledge, and to guide humanity along the path of truth. Our strength lies not in violence and power but in faith and love for every being." Ezekiel knew that darkness would never fully depart from this world. It would always seek to return to test the strength of light. But now humanity had an answer. Now they had the guiding star, a symbol that the light within every heart could overcome any darkness, if only one believed in it. And with this knowledge, Ezekiel moved forward, leaving behind a legacy that would never be forgotten, a legacy of light, truth, and a great awakening that forever changed humanity. After the battle with the dark society, the light of the guiding star spread across all lands, reaching even those corners of the world where darkness once reigned supreme. Ezekiel's teachings became not just a philosophy but a new reality for people. His followers, calling themselves the guardians of light, began to travel the world, carrying knowledge and wisdom to places where darkness had yet to retreat. Each guardian bore in their heart the flame of the guiding star. They were not merely students of Ezekiel but living embodiments of his teachings, his strength, and his faith. Their goal was simple: to help people see the light of truth, to teach them to unlock their inner potential, and to use ancient knowledge for the good of all humanity. One day, as Ezekiel stood at the foot of the guiding star, the Anunnaki appeared to him once more. This time they did not seem like judges or testers, but rather allies, ready to share their knowledge. "Prophet," said the elder among them, his voice now full of respect and wisdom, "you have proven that humanity is capable of so much more. But we have come not merely to pay our respects. There is an ancient prophecy that states that in the future darkness will return in a form more powerful than ever before. Humanity will need not only the power of light but also an understanding of ancient magic and science to stand against it." Ezekiel listened carefully, understanding that his path was still far from complete. He realized that the knowledge they had gained so far was only the beginning. The true strength lies in understanding the cosmic laws that govern the world and the fate of all beings. He knew that he must prepare his followers for a new challenge that would come from the depths of the universe. At the Anunnaki's suggestion, Ezekiel decided to create temples of knowledge, places where people could study ancient writings, cosmic magic, and sciences passed down to them by higher powers. These temples became centers of learning and meditation, where everyone could gain access to the secrets of the universe and unlock their inner abilities. Ezekiel gathered the best scholars, philosophers, and masters of his time to help transmit knowledge to future generations. In the temples of knowledge, research was conducted in fields such as astronomy, alchemy, medicine, and other sciences that could help people better understand themselves and the world around them. Those who came to these temples became part of a great movement for enlightenment and spiritual awakening. Yet even among his students, there were those who doubted that light could exist without darkness. Some began to study not only the light magic but also dark forces, seeking to find balance between these two extremes. They believed that complete understanding of the world was impossible without exploring both sides of reality. This group of students became known as the Union of Light and Darkness. They did not seek destruction but aimed to use the power of darkness in harmony with the light, believing that true strength lay in the balance between opposites. The Allies understood that while darkness could be dangerous, it also carried lessons and knowledge that could help avoid future mistakes. Ezekiel watched their studies with caution but also hope. He believed that if his students could harness and direct dark forces for good, it would be an important step toward creating a world where light and darkness could coexist in balance. Before his death, Ezekiel gathered all his students and guardians of light at the guiding star. He felt that his time on earth was drawing to a close. But his visions of the future remained clear and strong. He knew that even after he departed, his work must continue, and humanity would still face many trials. Remember, he said, looking at his followers, light and darkness will always struggle in this world, but that does not mean darkness must be our enemy. It is merely a shadow of the light that resides within each of us. Your duty is to safeguard knowledge and use it wisely. We must not only oppose darkness but also understand it, so that we may turn it into our ally. His words became the final testament for his students. After Ezekiel's departure, the guiding star continued to shine, becoming a symbol not only of his teachings but of humanity's eternal quest for knowledge and enlightenment. People kept the light of his wisdom in their hearts and passed it down from generation to generation, preparing the future to face new challenges and mysteries of the universe. Over time, the name Ezekiel became legend, but his teachings continued to live in the hearts of those who believed in the power of light and truth. The temples of knowledge spread across the world, and within them, new generations of guardians grew ready to face any darkness that the future might bring. Thus concluded the journey of Ezekiel, the prophet of light, who showed humanity that true strength lies not in power or fear but in knowledge, faith, and an unwavering pursuit of truth. Centuries passed, and Ezekiel's legacy evolved into a powerful movement known as the Age of Enlightenment. The temples of knowledge, founded by the prophet, became centers of great discoveries and philosophical discussions. Inspired by Ezekiel's teachings, people invented new technologies based on ancient magic and Anunnaki science, leading to unprecedented advancement of civilization. However, alongside this flourishing of knowledge and understanding, a new threat emerged. On the horizon appeared something that ancient prophets and the Anunnaki had predicted as the Great Return of Darkness. This force was far more powerful and insidious than all previous enemies. It did not seek to directly destroy the light but aimed to undermine the hearts of people from within, sowing doubt and discord among the guardians of light. In the midst of the Age of Enlightenment, the heavens opened, and a mysterious anomaly known as the Great Storm appeared. This cosmic tempest was linked to ancient forces hidden in the depths of the universe, and many sages believed it was summoned by dark powers to shatter the harmony and unity of humanity. The influence of the storm was so vast that many guardians of light found themselves lost. Some, succumbing to pressure, fell prey to the temptation of darkness. These lost seekers, as they came to be known, began to explore dark magic, secretly hoping to gain strength enough to combat the impending chaos. But the deeper they delved into the study of dark arts, the more they became puppets of the very forces they fought against. Ezekiel, although he was no longer among the living, dreamed of his students. He saw darkness slowly creeping into their hearts, how doubt and fear overtook those who were meant to be defenders of the light. His legacy was on the brink of destruction, and even the guiding star, which had shone for many centuries, now flickered as if unable to withstand the looming threat. At this moment, when everything seemed lost, a new leader emerged. A young woman named Leah, a descendant of one of Ezekiel's first disciples, rose to unite the guardians of light. She was gifted with a rare ability, the power to see the future and feel the hearts of people. Her visions were filled with images of Ezekiel, guiding her steps. Leah proclaimed a new call for unity. She asserted that the ancient prophecies still lived on and that the world needed not only protection from darkness but also the understanding that light and darkness were two sides of the same coin. According to her, every person must embrace both aspects of their nature, learning to use them in harmony rather than in conflict. She gathered around her those who believed in her vision. Those willing to fight for the light, even understanding that darkness was not an enemy but part of themselves. Under her leadership, the guardians of light and even some of the lost seekers united to forge a new alliance, ready to face any threat, no matter how powerful it might be. Leah knew that to achieve a final victory over darkness and the Great Return, they would require the help of those who had come to Ezekiel centuries ago, the Anunnaki. She sought ways to establish contact with these ancient beings, believing that only through their knowledge and assistance could humanity find a way to overcome this crisis. After long research and travels, Leah and her followers found an ancient artifact thought to be the key to the gates of the Anunnaki world. This artifact, known as the Soul Mirror, was capable of opening portals to other worlds and dimensions. Leah activated it, and on a clear night, beneath the light of the guiding star, a portal tore open in the sky. The Anunnaki emerged, but their appearance was now even more majestic and fearsome. They came not as saviors but as judges, observing the fate of humanity. Their leader, ancient and wise, looked at Leah and said, "You and your people have made a choice that was foreordained for centuries. Light and darkness are not just forces. They are your hearts, your mind, your soul. Now we see you are ready to accept the true nature of existence." The Anunnaki imparted to Leah and her followers the final knowledge, the understanding of the true essence of light and darkness. The secrets of creation and destruction that would enable humanity to govern its destiny. They explained that darkness would never completely vanish, but if people learned to use it as a source of strength rather than as an enemy, they could achieve harmony and balance. With this new knowledge, Leah and her followers began to transform the world. The halls of knowledge became even more powerful, their doors opened to all who sought truth. The guiding star shone once more with renewed vigor, symbolizing that even in the darkest of times, there is always a path to the light. Ezekiel's legacy passed to a new generation, but his spirit continued to live in every guardian of light, in every seeker of truth, in every person striving for knowledge and enlightenment. Leah knew that the battle would never end, but humanity now possessed not only strength but also wisdom to handle any shadow, no matter how mighty. And therein lay Ezekiel's final testament: light and darkness are two threads of a single fate. Only together can they create something great, and only together can they lead to true awakening. Leah, now a symbol of the new movement, continued to guide the guardians of light on the path of enlightenment and harmony. With her help, the halls of knowledge became centers not only for the study of light but also for the understanding of darkness. Here, people learned to harness both forces for good, creating powerful spells and technologies that allowed them to see the world from different perspectives, but not everyone shared this path. Some of the lost seekers, who rejected Leah and her vision, united under the banner of the Dark Council. They believed that only through absolute power and control could they combat the great forces threatening humanity. Their leader, endowed with dark knowledge, rose against Leah, claiming that light was too soft to combat truth. This faction began to gather strength in the shadows, planning an uprising against the guardians of light. At this time, when the world teetered on the brink of conflict, the observers appeared on the horizon, beings from other dimensions who had come to witness the unfolding events on Earth. They were mysterious and invisible, but Leah could sense their presence. The observers represented a powerful race that gained strength by watching the evolution of other worlds. Their interest in humanity was both positive and negative. One day, as Leah meditated under the light of the guiding star, one of the observers decided to step from the shadows. He took the form of a man, his eyes glowing with a cold light. "You, Leah," he said, "are at a crossroads. Your choice will determine not only the fate of this world but many others. I have come to warn you of the approaching darkness of which you are not yet aware." Leah, sensing that this observer spoke the truth, asked what exactly threatened humanity. The observer explained that the Dark Council planned to awaken ancient forces that slept deep within the planet, and that this could lead to the destruction of all that exists. You must unite the forces of light and darkness to stop this threat. That is the only way to avert catastrophe. Learning of the Dark Council's plans, Leah gathered her followers and the Guardians of Light. They agreed that it was time to act. The battle between light and darkness loomed, and each day became ever more tense. Streets of cities erupted into clashes between Leah's supporters and the Dark Council. Each camp gathered allies. Leah used her knowledge of light to create spells that enhanced the spiritual connection among people, while the Dark Council employed dark rituals to awaken ancient forces. People shared their energy, and the world was filled with a sense of anticipation and fear. During this time, Leah understood that the only thing that could unite her supporters, and even some seekers, was the understanding that light and darkness could coexist. She decided to organize a meeting between the supporters of light and darkness in an attempt to prevent a complete rupture. In the gathering at the Hall of Knowledge, Leah called on both sides to be open and to engage in dialogue. She knew the road to peace would be difficult, but believed that only through understanding and collective effort could true harmony be achieved. We all strive for one goal, the protection of our world. We must learn to respect each other and understand that light and darkness are two poles of a single force, she said. At first, disputes and distrust prevailed among those gathered, but gradually her words began to reach the hearts of even those filled with hatred. Leah continued to share her visions, describing how light and darkness could unite to create something great. She showed how these forces truly operated in nature and in humanity. Inspired by her words, some members of the Dark Council began to doubt their methods. They began to realize that their quest for power only intensified hatred and division. Over time, thanks to Leah's efforts, a consensus was reached, and both sides decided to temporarily join forces to confront the impending threat. Together they prepared for the final battle against the ancient forces awakened by the Dark Council. Leah knew that the forces they would face would be far mightier than they could imagine. With each passing minute, darkness approached, and light slowly faded. When the moment of battle came, the armies of light and darkness merged into one. They combined their powers, creating magical spells capable of halting the enemy. The sky erupted in a storm, and the ancient forces awakened by the Dark Council began to emerge from their depths. The battle erupted with incredible force. Magical waves rose from both sides, and everything around filled with rage and power. Leah, standing in the center of this chaos, used her abilities to merge light and darkness, creating a powerful spell. It was a complex fusion, full of energy and intent, designed to stop all the evil that had arisen from the depths of the earth. At the moment Leah uttered the incantation, light and darkness fused into one powerful stream of energy. At that moment, the world held its breath. The ancient forces awakened from their slumber were finally defeated. Darkness did not disappear, but it was brought under control, now serving not as an enemy, but as an ally. After the battle, the world began to change. Leah and her companions understood that even in victory, light and darkness must remain in balance. Humanity learned to use these forces for good, and the halls of knowledge became places where both the bright and dark aspects of magic were studied. A new era of enlightenment and understanding began. Humanity became wiser, realizing that darkness could never be completely eliminated. It, like light, was part of their existence, and only in harmony could they achieve true prosperity. Leah, now a new prophet, took on the responsibility of teaching future generations. She continued to share the wisdom revealed to her, inspiring people to explore both light and darkness. She knew that in their unity lay strength, and that the future would depend on their ability to find balance. With each passing day, the world grew ever more diverse and layered. The Guardians of Light spread throughout the world, carrying their teachings of unity. In every culture and on every continent, new halls of knowledge arose, where people could explore both the magic of light and the mysteries of darkness. Leah continued to work towards creating a world where everyone could come to understand that light and darkness could coexist and enrich each other. She knew the path would be long, but her heart was filled with hope. With every new generation and with every new student that entered the halls of knowledge, she felt that the dream of harmony and unity was drawing ever closer. Light and darkness, two eternal adversaries, became friends in this new world. Everyone learned that once they embraced both sides of their essence, they grew stronger, wiser, and ready to face any challenge. Leah often gazed at the guiding star, understanding that her legacy would live on in the hearts of those who seek truth. She knew that the battle between light and darkness would never end, but she believed humanity was ready to meet any darkness with open hearts full of light. Many years passed since Leah united light and darkness in one great battle. The earth changed, and its inhabitants changed with it. The halls of knowledge transformed into centers not only for magic but also for science, where researchers sought answers to questions that had remained unanswered for centuries. People became more open to ideas and cultures of one another, and a new era of understanding and cooperation loomed on the horizon. However, Leah knew that change was not always smooth. Despite the common harmony, the remaining supporters of the Dark Council had not vanished without a trace. Some lurked in the shadows, dissatisfied with the fact that their quest for power had been thwarted. Leah and her followers had to remain vigilant to prevent any attempts to dismantle the achieved balance. One day, Leah sensed darkness descending upon the world. Rumors surfaced that the Dark Council had begun to gather again, collecting the remnants of their power. They were seeking ancient artifacts to awaken forces imprisoned in the subterranean depths and regain control over the world. Knowing that this could lead to catastrophe, Leah gathered her closest allies to discuss how they could prevent a new threat. At that moment, one of the observers, whom Leah remembered as her first ally, joined them. His face was unexpressively serious. "We have come to warn you," he began. "The dark forces you believe are defeated are awakening once more. They have begun seeking ancient artifacts to reclaim their power. You must unite your forces and restore your defenses." Leah and her team knew that to protect the world, they needed to explore their roots to find ancient artifacts that could enhance their magic. They embarked on a journey across the land, exploring ancient temples and lost cities where relics of the past might lie. The journey was full of trials and dangers. Each place they came to held its secrets and was guarded by powerful beings who tested their loyalty and bravery. Leah and her followers learned about ancient traditions, how magic shone in darkness, and how darkness could be used to protect light. One day, in an ancient temple, they discovered an artifact known as the Crystal of Unity. It was created as a symbol of the union of light and darkness and possessed powerful energy. With its help, they were able to create a protective field around the halls of knowledge and enhance their magical abilities. Meanwhile, the Dark Council gathered in secret places, planning their actions. Their leader, endowed with new dark knowledge, thirsted for revenge. He understood that the forces of light had grown much stronger than before, and he decided to employ his cunning tactics to undermine the people's trust in Leah and her team. They began spreading rumors that Leah and her allies had become too powerful, posing a threat to the freedom of the people. This sparked discord and fear among some residents, who began to doubt the true intentions of the Guardians of Light. When Leah learned of the Dark Council's plans, she realized they needed to act quickly. Together with her team, she decided to find out who was behind this disinformation and who the real enemy was. They ventured into the heart of the enemy's lair, where the members of the Dark Council were gathering. Leah felt she had to confront their leader face to face. It was dangerous, but she knew it was the only way they could stop the destructive intentions of the Dark Council. When they arrived at the enemy's stronghold, Leah discovered that her old acquaintance, a former seeker, was among them. He had become strong, endowed with dark magic, and now harbored hatred towards everything related to light. He met her with disdain and bitterness, claiming that light had broken him. "Do you still believe in this lie about a world where light and darkness can coexist?" he said, hatred seeping from his voice. I have come to understand that only darkness can give power. Leah tried to reach out to him, but he was blinded by hatred. Their dialogue turned into a conflict that symbolized a broader struggle, the battle between the ideals of light and darkness. The battle that erupted was not only physical but also ideological. Leah used all her skills to stop him, but he continued to fight, filled with fury. Each strike, each spell reflected their opposing views of the world. Meanwhile, Leah's team fought against other members of the Dark Council, ensuring that none of them intervened in their fight. Light and darkness intertwined, generating magical waves that reflected the essence of their struggle. It was a battle for their lives and for the future. When Leah ultimately gained the upper hand, she felt a spark of compassion igniting in her heart. She understood this former seeker had been her friend, and his darkness was a result of fear and loss. "We can change the world if only you allow me to help you," she said, her voice full of sincerity. "I am not the enemy, and I cannot afford to lose you. We all suffer, and only together can we find a way." To her surprise, a flicker of hope sparkled in the eyes of the former seeker. For a moment, he hesitated, his sword trembling in his hands. Leah felt he was battling his inner demons, and she knew this was their only chance. "Look around," she continued. "Light and darkness can exist together. I have come not with a sword but with hope. Accept this. We can bring back peace if you just believe in us." And at that moment, as light and darkness collided, he was able to see her sincerity. He lowered his sword and, in tears, turned to her. "I was blinded. I thought power lay only in darkness, but now I see that is not the case." With this new understanding, Leah and the former seeker were able to unite their strengths and stop the Dark Council. Together they showed everyone that light and darkness can work together, creating a new reality. Other members of the Dark Council, seeing this reconciliation, also began to rethink their positions. The battle was over, but it was not the end, it was merely the beginning of a new era. Leah and her team continued to work toward creating a world where light and darkness coexisted, where each side respected and accepted the other. The temples of knowledge became centers of learning not only for magic but also for philosophy, where people could discuss and explore the interplay of light and darkness. Leah knew that this new understanding had only just begun, and her heart was filled with hope. Leah, now wiser than ever, understood that the struggle for harmony would be eternal. However, she also knew that they had already taken a huge step forward. People began to realize that only by joining their forces could they confront any challenges. And although each new day brought its own trials, light and darkness were now allies. Their interaction opened doors to new possibilities, new heights, and new discoveries. Leah continued along this path, guiding those who sought truth and unveiling new horizons for humanity. Leah often gazed at the guiding star, knowing that its light would always show the way. She dreamed of a future where light and darkness would live in peace, where everyone could find their place, regardless of which power they wielded, and she knew that this future, filled with possibilities, was just beginning. The journey continued, and Leah was ready for new challenges, new lessons, and new discoveries. In her heart burned the desire to create a world where everyone could live in harmony. And she was confident that together they could achieve it. Since Leah and her team united light and darkness, many inhabitants of Earth began to actively participate in the life of the temples of knowledge. Masters and students from all corners of the world came to study the ancient mysteries of magic and science, combining their efforts to create a new, more harmonious world. Leah became a symbol of hope and unity. Her knowledge and wisdom attracted many seekers of truth. She founded the Academy of Unity, where both magic and philosophy were taught, helping people understand the importance of both light and darkness in their lives. The Academy also became a place for discussions, where people could freely share their ideas and experiences. Over time, Leah understood that it was important not just to maintain harmony on Earth, but to explore other worlds as well. Her interest in uncharted territories led her to the idea of creating research expeditions that could expand humanity's horizons. together with a team of the best scientists and mages, she organized the first expedition beyond familiar lands. They ventured into ancient forests, deep seas, and even mountains that were considered sacred. Each new place revealed not only the mysteries of nature but also secrets long forgotten. One of their expeditions involved exploring a lost city that, according to legend, had been built by ancient gods. The city was filled with magic and technologies that could not exist in the ordinary world. Leah and her team discovered many artifacts that provided new insights into how ancient civilizations used light and darkness in their lives. However, not all discoveries were peaceful. During one of the expeditions, while they were exploring a mysterious temple covered in green vines and hidden in the shadows of tall trees, Leah confronted dark forces that had not yet been fully defeated. Upon entering the temple, the team felt the magic around them becoming unstable. The walls began to tremble, and shadows erupted from the dark corners. These were remnants of the Dark Council's forces, lying in wait for their moment. Leah realized that their thirst for power had not yet been quenched. "Gather yourselves," she shouted, raising her hand to amplify the protective spell. The light around them began to flicker, while the darkness tried to engulf it. Her team members combined their strengths, and in that moment, they understood that only together could they face this threat. The battle erupted. Leah used the crystal of unity that she had discovered earlier to create a barrier around her friends. Shadows could not breach it, but the power of the crystal required energy, and she knew she could not maintain the barrier forever. Leah felt fear growing inside her, but she knew this was not the time for doubt. "We must unite our powers," she cried. "Each of us can contribute. Use your knowledge and magic." Leah's words sparked a flame in her friends' hearts. They began to concentrate their energy, and soon a glow in the air began to unite them as one. The light emanating from them became so powerful that it pulled the darkness back, causing the shadows to start to disperse. At that moment, Leah felt that each of them had become part of something greater. She realized that their connection was not just about magic, it was the power of unity that could overcome any evil. The forces of light and darkness, coming together, created something new, which became the foundation of their victory. With the understanding of this unity, Leah took one last step. She directed all her strength into the crystal of unity, summoning its power to finally rid the temple of the dark beings. In a brilliant explosion of light, the darkness dissipated, leaving only dust and forgotten whispers. After the battle, Leah and her team emerged from the temple, weary but victorious. They realized that to maintain the peace, they needed to continually watch out for those who might attempt to disrupt this balance. The lesson they learned was simple: only together could they create a sustainable future. Returning home, Leah and her team brought back a wealth of knowledge and artifacts that would help strengthen the temples of knowledge. Each of them understood that their journey had changed them forever, and they were determined to pass on these lessons to future generations. New classes began at the Academy of Unity, dedicated to the study of both magic and science. They discussed lessons on how to deal with dark forces and the importance of unity and cooperation. Leah continued to inspire her students, teaching them the art of understanding both light and darkness. She shared tales of her adventures, emphasizing that even in the darkest corners, there is always room for hope and light. One day, during a lesson, a mysterious visitor entered the hall. He was dressed in clothing that seemed familiar yet unusual. His face was calm, and he bore an aura of knowledge. Leah felt that this person had come from the future. "I come from a time where your path has changed the world," he said, his voice soft yet authoritative. "I am here to warn you of a new threat that may arise if you are not careful with your actions." Leah and her team froze, and silence hung in the air. This mysterious man continued to describe how their choices in the present would affect the future of humanity. He painted a picture of a world where light and darkness were inextricably linked, but where darkness was once again trying to seize control, and how unity between the two sides was more important than ever. "You must be cautious," he warned. "The path to unity will not always be easy, but your determination and wisdom will lead you to success." Leah understood that her journey was just beginning. She knew that new trials and discoveries awaited them. She gathered her students and recounted what had happened, urging them to be open to new knowledge and to respect both light and darkness. From that moment on, the Academy of Unity became not just a place of learning, but also a center for exploring the future. Leah and her team actively sought new ways of interaction and cooperation to preserve balance and prevent any threats, and so, with each new day, Leah and her students continued their journey, knowing that their dedication to the ideals of light and darkness would make the world a better place. They became guardians not only of their land but of all humanity, safeguarding the knowledge and wisdom that had been passed down to them. And although the unknown future awaited them, Leah knew that with faith in themselves and the unity of those around them, they could face any threat. The unending journey continued, and they were ready to meet it with open hearts. Years passed since Leah and her team successfully confronted the dark forces in the temple. The Academy of Unity continued to thrive, attracting students from around the world. However, on quiet nights, when the stars shone the brightest, Leah sometimes felt that the dark forces they had thought defeated still roamed the earth. One day, while researching ancient texts, Leah discovered a mention of the ancient convergence, a ritual that could unite the power of light and darkness, creating a new beginning for the world. However, this power was also linked to ancient entities that could be dangerous to awaken. Gathering her team, Leah shared her findings. We must explore this convergence. If it truly exists, it could be our chance to create a world where light and darkness live in full harmony, she declared, filled with determination. Her team supported her, eager to unravel the mysteries that could change their world. Following the instructions in the ancient texts, Leah and her team set off to distant regions where, according to legend, lay the key to the ancient convergence. They journeyed through dense forests, high mountains, and vast deserts, facing numerous challenges along the way. In one of the deserts, they stumbled upon an ancient temple, covered in sand and forgotten legends. The temple was guarded by beings that could only be legends themselves, spirits representing the embodiment of light and darkness. We have come in search of knowledge about the ancient union, Leah said, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. The spirits exchanged glances through their translucent bodies, as if weighing her words. Knowledge is both a gift and a burden. Your resolve will be tested, one of the spirits replied. Undergo the trial, and you shall obtain what you seek. Remember, there is power in harmony, but destruction in carelessness. Leah and her team agreed to face the trial. The spirits created a path that required them to pass through various obstacles, each symbolizing a choice between light and darkness. The first trial was a test of courage. Leah had to confront the manifestation of her greatest fear, formed from darkness. She saw a vision in which all her loved ones were in grave danger. Leah used her magic and the power of unity to overcome this fear, ensuring that her friends were there to support her. The second trial was a test of wisdom. Leah and her team faced riddles that demanded a deep understanding of both light and darkness. They discussed, sought solutions, and ultimately found the correct answer, realizing that only by combining their knowledge could they overcome any obstacle. The final trial was a test of devotion. The team had to choose what was more important to them, their own lives or the life of another. Leah, as the leader, could have sacrificed herself for her friends, but instead, she offered her magic to save them, and this decision strengthened their bond. After successfully completing the trials, the spirits revealed the entrance to the innermost sanctum of the temple. Inside, they found ritual objects used for the ancient union and ancient tomes filled with knowledge. Now you are ready, the spirits spoke. But remember, this is not only a gift. It carries responsibility. The union requires a pure heart and complete unity. If you fail to maintain the balance, you will awaken dark forces that have been sealed for centuries. Leah and her team recognized the seriousness of the moment. They prepared for the ritual, merging their magical energies to achieve complete unity. They stood in a circle, holding hands, and began to chant the incantation, intertwining light and darkness. light and darkness began to dance around them, creating an incredible whirlwind of energy. Leah felt the magic fill her body, connecting her to her friends. Suddenly, a light erupted in the center of the circle, and a vision appeared before them, an awakening of power capable of changing the world. When the ritual concluded, the room filled with a sense of peace and harmony. Leah and her team felt that something had changed. Their connection to magic deepened, and they became able to wield the power of light and darkness more consciously. However, they also sensed that dark forces had awakened. Whispers filled their minds, and the shadows seemed to grow more real. Leah realized that they had attracted the attention of those who opposed unity. "We must be careful," she said. "This is just the beginning. We need to use this power for protection, not destruction." With their newfound strength, the team returned home, ready to face new challenges. They began training to learn how to control their power, but soon realized that dark forces were starting to appear in their world. Shadows began to rise, causing distress among the inhabitants. Leah and her team joined forces with other wizards and scholars to devise a strategy to counter this threat. They knew they had to maintain balance, otherwise, darkness would consume their world. They started exploring how darkness could be used for good, discovering that many dark beings were not evil but merely lost. Leah suggested they try to create a dialogue with these beings. Leah and her team met with representatives of the dark forces in a neutral zone, a deserted temple where they could speak without fear of attack. Leah tried to establish contact, explaining that they were not enemies and that light and darkness could coexist. "We know that darkness has its strength and place in this world," she said. "We want to learn to understand each other to avoid destruction." The dark beings were cautious, but a few of them, driven by curiosity, agreed to listen. As a result of these meetings, a slow process of dialogue and cooperation began. Over time, Leah and her team, alongside the dark beings, started working on projects that could improve life for everyone. They developed educational programs where everyone could learn to understand and embrace differences. The world began to change. Humans and dark beings began working together, finding common interests and sharing their knowledge. Leah realized that her dream of harmony had not only come true but had transformed into a new reality. However, after some time, a new challenge emerged. Forces from other dimensions began to appear, seeking to destroy the balance. Leah and her team understood that their combined strength was under threat. They began developing protective mechanisms and research to understand where these forces were coming from and how to stop them. Leah gathered her students and all those willing to fight for unity. The day came when the forces of destruction descended upon the world. Leah and her team were ready for battle. They gathered all their allies who could unite their powers into one mighty army of light and darkness. The battle was fierce. Leah felt her strength depleting, but she did not give up. A desire burned in her heart to protect everyone who believed in unity. She knew they could win if they acted as one whole. Finally, after a long and grueling fight, light and darkness united to create a powerful surge of energy that repelled the attack. In that moment, Leah realized that true strength lay in their unity. After winning against the destructive forces, the world was once again filled with peace and harmony. Leah and her team became symbols of a new era, where light and darkness could coexist. The Academy of Unity continued to thrive, teaching new generations how to understand and embrace their differences. Leah knew they had taken an important step towards creating a better world, but also understood that new challenges could lurk around every corner. Ultimately, she knew that the path of unity was an endless journey requiring constant effort, understanding, and love. And although the future remained uncertain, she was ready to face it with an open heart and faith in the light that would always illuminate their path. Years passed after the victory over the dark forces, and the world had indeed changed. Leah, now a recognized leader of the Academy of Unity, proudly watched her students, who were learning not only magic but also the art of diplomacy, understanding, and compassion. At the Academy, seminars were held every week where light and dark beings learned together, sharing their knowledge and experiences. The existence of ancient conflicts between light and darkness became merely a part of their history, a lesson carried through the generations. Leah, recognizing the importance of maintaining balance, also began exploring ways to use magic for the protection of nature and the restoration of ecosystems that had suffered due to conflicts. Together with her students, she founded the Green Bridge project aimed at restoring lands damaged by wars and creating an environment where humans and beings could coexist in harmony. One quiet evening, Leah gathered with her team to discuss the future of the academy. They stood atop a hill overlooking the lands they once defended. The sun was setting, painting the sky in golden and purple hues, creating an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. "We have done much for the world," Leah began, addressing her friends. "But it's important to remember that our legacy will depend on our actions. We must continue to learn and grow, not only as magic users but as human beings." The team nodded, understanding the significance of her words. They knew that the work was not yet complete. Darkness could emerge again, but now they were prepared for any challenges, for their strength lay in unity. Leah, looking at her friends, realized they were not just a team but a family, bonded by a shared goal and mutual support. And as night fell, the stars began to twinkle in the sky like beacons of hope. The legacy of unity was what they had built together, and it continued to live on, inspiring new generations. And though dark forces might rise again, Leah knew that together they could overcome any barriers, for light and darkness were not contradictions but merely different aspects of a whole. Thus, the academy, founded on principles of love and understanding, became a symbol of hope for all beings in their world. And no matter how events unfolded, their path to true unity continued. Looking ahead, Leah stepped forward with confidence, knowing that her mission was only beginning.